Yo, what's going on, guys? We are back with another video. Today, we are going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Kind of go at an overview of what happened this weekend, how the teams were looking. What went good, what went bad. Kind of preview for this next conference championship round, and look at all the teams, look at the games, look at the stats. Kind of give our opinions on what happened here. First off, let's dive into the Chiefs-Texans game. So when I first look at this game, the Chiefs, they ended up winning by 9 points. The spread was moving anywhere between like 8 and 9.5. So depending on where you got it, could have been good. They had the backdoor cover with that safety at the end that the Chiefs just ran to stall the clock out. But overall, pretty decent game and kind of what I expected. This Texans team is good, but they were very injured on offense. Um, they had a very good defense, but you're going up against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. That's already a hard question to ask your defense to be like, hey, you really got to stop Mahomes and the Chiefs. They held them pretty good though. 23 points. Great job on the defensive side. I do think they played very well all game. But they could only put up 14 points this game, and I kind of expected that in the sense that, this Chiefs defense is easily top three, in my opinion. It's been kind of what's carrying them all year. They have a very good lineup on defense. And this Texans team was just injured. No Tank Dell, no Stephon. Joe Mixon was basically playing with a sprained ankle. And he looked good out there too. He was balling out there on Saturday, but it just wasn't the time for the Texans. I think they're still one or two pieces away of being a true contender. Maybe that's just if they're healthy. Maybe that'll put them up there. But tough spot for them to go into Arrowhead, so injured. But the Chiefs played good. They kind of dominated the whole game in my opinion. I'm not saying this was some blowout of a game, but they definitely controlled it. Andy Reid, Mahomes, that duo in itself is going to control almost every game they play. And another thing is, playoffs are back, and we saw Travis Kelce pop off. I mean, he had, I think close to 120 yards, like 7 catches. That's just what he does in the playoffs. We did this last year where everyone was like, oh, Kelsey's regular season isn't doing that great, blah, blah, blah. Gets to the playoffs, wins the Super Bowl, right? And it has outstanding performances every game. Same thing this year. He didn't look that good. A bunch of like fantasy owners were pissed off. He looked slow. He looked a little overweight. Like people were just kind of dogging him on all year. Playoffs comes, basically carries the game. He's just a different breed in the playoffs, kind of like Gronk. Um, but the Chiefs looked good. They played well. They didn't run the ball super well, but they controlled the clock. They played it well. Mahomes had a decent game, and defense stepped up. I think they had like 8 sacks on C.J. Stroud, 8 or 9 sacks. Karloftis, shout out my Greeks. He's a beast, and I think he had like 2 or 3 sacks himself. Played very, very well. But yeah, overall for this Chiefs game, I mean, they dominated. I kind of expected it at least. Um, when you get into the postseason and you have Andy Reid and Mahomes, I mean, what do you expect? So overall, decent matchup, decent game. Good luck to the Texans next year, but yeah, Chiefs were moving on in this game. Moving on, we had the Lions host the Washington Commanders on Saturday night, and this was just an awesome game. I know a lot of people had the Lions and they had them going far too, but an upset like this is just crazy. I mean, no one expected this Washington team to pull it off. I know some people were on the spread. I mean, it was a big spread. It was like 9.5, 10. Kind of makes sense. But, I mean, Jaden Daniels is unreal. As a rookie quarterback, to be this composed and this, there's no nerves. It looks like he's just out there to play. I mean, he's running phenomenally. He's making perfect throws. With a mediocre team, in my opinion, their defense isn't great. He doesn't have all-star weapons. I mean, McLaurin's good. Eckler's been a great addition. Brian Robinson's all right. He doesn't have like these crazy, crazy weapons. De'Ami Brown had a great game. young player, good pop off spot for him there. But um, overall, like you look at this game beforehand and you're like, how could the Commanders possibly win it? And I mean, they just controlled every part of this game. Um, Goff, I think, had 3 turnovers. Lions defense is hurt, and I get that they're a little hurt on defense, so it kind of makes sense on how they were able to put up so many points. But I mean, 45 points against the Lions was just unreal. Um, Jaden Daniels, I think, is something very special. Um, as a rookie quarterback to see this, it's almost unheard of. He's playing phenomenal, and if he makes the Super Bowl, good for him. I think that's awesome. He had like 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he was almost at like 70% completion. Just phenomenal game by him. And this Washington team, they've got a future ahead of them, especially now that you've kind of found your quarterback. I don't really see him slumping a ton. He's quick. He can run. He's got a good arm. Great accuracy. You never know if maybe next year he goes down a little bit, but then he could climb back up. It's just his rookie year, but from what I'm seeing right now, he's phenomenal. And after watching that game, they deserved it. I think they played super well. The Lions, they played okay. Without those turnovers, I think it's a totally different game. But I mean, you can't make turnovers like that in the playoffs. And I feel bad for Dan Campbell. He's a great coach, great guy, and this Lions team has a lot of heart, but unfortunately just couldn't make it happen this year. And maybe that's just because they had the bye. I know a lot of people don't really, they're like, oh, you got to buy, it's a great advantage. But at the same time, like, you're kind of cold, you haven't played in a week and a half, 2 weeks. Um, you've had time to prepare and rest, but like, at the same time, you start off slow a little bit. This Washington team just played. They're hot at the right time. And yeah, I think this Washington team's good. And if they made the Super Bowl, I think it'd be a very fun game. So we'll see what happens. But Commanders ended up taking that one, and they're making the NFC Championship. Moving on, we had the Eagles host the LA Rams on Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. Eagles ended up winning 28-22. Very good game. Rams almost came back and won it. You look at this game, and my first thought is just, I mean, Saquon is phenomenal. I think he had 200 yards rushing. He did have a lot of carries, but still, he was averaging a ton um, per play. He's just a phenomenal back, and for this game to be this close, props to McVay and Stafford. Because you look on paper, and these teams, in my opinion, aren't even comparable. The Rams will be good the next couple of years. They're very young. They've got talent. Puka's been great. Kyron had a good game too. And Stafford's a veteran quarterback. You might have to look at getting a new quarterback soon, just because I don't know how long he's going to play for. Um, Still a great quarterback, and he had a good game. I think he had 2 touchdowns, over 300 yards. And you look at this game, and this Eagles team is just so well rounded. I mean, their offensive line and defensive line are, top five easily. You've got the best running back in the league in my eyes. You have great weapons with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard. I mean, you have so many ways that you can move the ball. And they barely even threw this game. I think Hurts only threw it 20 times, um, maybe 22. It wasn't much, and you don't really have to. I mean, Hurts can run too. Saquon can run. You can just beat down the other team, and it's a great way that they're playing football right now. It's not fun. It's not flashy. I know AJ Brown's been pissed, and I get it, but at the same time, you're winning games, and I'm not the biggest fan of Jalen Hurts. I don't think his arm talent's that great. I think he makes a couple too many turnovers at times, but for them to just feed Saquon, keep it on the ground, run the clock, like they play it so well, and their defense is they've got studs on corners, the D line. This team is just very well rounded. I see them making the Super Bowl again this year. And it would have been a great upset if the Rams would have made it. I was kind of rooting for them. I had +7, so that's great. But this Rams team just a little too young, a little out of competition for this Eagles team. They're just so stacked all the way, and if they keep playing it right and coaching it right, they can totally make the Super Bowl, possibly win it. I mean, Saquon is just on a mission right now. You know, if you got to send an extra guy every time he's on the field, like it opens up so much, and he's still averaging 150 yards a game right now. It's ridiculous, and good for him. I'm glad to see Saquon on a good team with a good O line and to truly show how good he is. So overall, not too much for this game. Rams looked great. Again, I like them in the next couple years. I'm a big Stafford fan, big McVay fan. I'm glad they kept it close, but this Eagles team is just so good. Looking at the final game here, we had the Buffalo Bills hosting the Baltimore Ravens in a great Sunday night game, and the Bills came out on top. That was my prediction originally, and I still do have them winning the Super Bowl. That was always my pick going into this year. Besides early in the season, I did have the Chiefs at the beginning, but later in the season when I did kind of my bracket, I did take the Bills. And they will be matching up against each other now. But looking at this game, it's kind of played out the way that I thought. We've seen Lamar in the past in the playoffs make some mistakes, and I don't know if he gets antsy or nervous or whatever, but he just didn't have the most terrific game in the sense that, he threw a horrible pick, and I don't know if that was on the route that was ran by the receiver or if that was on him. It's kind of hard to tell at times, but he did have a fumble too where he should have just went down, tried to stay up, and ended up losing the ball. Those two turnovers, I mean, that changes the whole game, shifts it completely. And Josh Allen played phenomenal in my opinion. I mean, he didn't have that many passing yards. He made great runs, great decisions. The coaching was phenomenal, and I think they just overall outplayed the Ravens. They stopped Derrick Henry to like 80 yards, which I know that's a lot for a running back, but it's Derrick Henry who's been averaging 200. So the fact that they were able to stop him at 80 yards with what they have as, technically kind of a mediocre run defense, pretty shocking to me. I think they played this game perfectly. I think they're on a mission right now, and I have Josh Allen as my regular season MVP. I think he's just playing out of his mind right now. And the team overall looked great. James Cook still looked good. He had a decent game. Shakir played well. They have very like mid-tier receiving core and stuff, but they get it done. They have good chemistry. It's nothing super special, but they look good and they're playing well. And I know they got Amari Cooper, but he hasn't really done anything at all. So like it's almost like he's like their third wideout right now. But overall, this team they're playing so well. The Ravens had a great year, and it comes down to is Lamar just a regular season quarterback, kind of like Dak in a way? I think Lamar is way better than Dak. I don't even think that's an argument. I still put Lamar probably as a top 3 quarterback, maybe top 4. But he hasn't proven anything. And I guess technically Josh hasn't either. But, at the same time, he's won the matchup against him this week. And, you start to have some questions with this Ravens team. But overall, this Bills team looked good. I think they match up very well against the Chiefs. We saw them beat them in the regular season this year. We'll see if they can beat them twice. That's going to be a very hard thing to see, but good AFC matchup coming up here. But yeah, I do like the Bills, and they played well, and I'm happy for all the Buffalo fans out there. But overall, pretty good weekend. Had some great games, great predictions from our side of things, and hopefully we get some good championship matchups going into the Super Bowl. So if you guys did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.